Hello everyone, welcome back to Angela's Craft Room. As promised, I've come back to do a finished card using the rose technique that we stamped in the last tutorial. This was the one that we stamped, and I showed you 3 different combination colours that I had come up with myself. So we're going to put the card together, but I'm going to do it in a different style, so it's just a bit of a different card, that was all. So instead of using the oval framelits, I've actually used the circle layering framelits. So this is the layering circle framelit. So as you can see, you get quite a lot of options of layering, but for this particular one I've only used one because I just wanted a circle cut out in my card. So to start with, we're starting off with Cherry Cobbler. So just got my copy mark stamp already stamped on the back. So it's 11 inches long, 4 1/4 wide, and scored at 5.5. Okay, and then inside I've put a piece of, now I don't know what colour that was, sweet sugar plum, sweet sugar plum. But before adhering it to the inside of my card, I used the stamp from the Kinda Eclectic stamp set, this leaf. But what I did was I stamped off before actually stamping on there, because I didn't want it to look as bright as the front of my card and taking away from the front of my card. So I just wanted to follow it into my card. So I just stamped off and then stamped on where I wanted it, make a nice little border. There's still plenty of room to write in. And then I adhered that to the inside of my card. So I didn't really think you needed to watch me do that. So we'll set that aside. Then I've got a piece of sweet sugar plum and a piece of Blushing Bride. Now as you can see, I've cut a circle out using my Big Shot with the layering circle framelits. So I want to use this piece first, because what I'm going to do, my card's going to open this way this time. Now I've told you this many times, how I adhere my lace and ribbon is I put some tear and tape on the back piece, because I don't put any adhesive under my lace or ribbon here, because I find that it leaves a nasty bulge. So I'm just going to remove that tear and tape. But what you've got to be careful of is when you're actually doing it, that you don't put it down on your surface, because otherwise it's going to stick, and once it sticks to the tear and tape, you won't get it back up. I don't use anything but the tear and tape for adhering all my lace and ribbon. So just trying to have it as straight as possible before it makes contact, and quite happy with that. Most probably could come over. Making sure and if you've still got a little bit of tear and tape there like I have, just be careful, because what I might do, because when I adhere this to my other layer, where the lace is down this side, it will need a piece of tear and tape over that lace, because if you try just using a wet glue or snail, it won't adhere very well to your card at all. So hopefully that'll stop it. There is a little bit of sticky there, but that's all right. So I just have to be careful not to put too much pressure on there. So then I'm ready to put it. I wanted to put my lace on first because I've got to tuck it underneath. Now I'm just going to adhere that to that section with my multi-purpose liquid glue. Now where this is a good glue, because if you don't put your cardstock down perfectly straight, it does give you that little bit of time to move it. So whereas with snail, definitely not with tear and tape, but with snail I just find it doesn't give me any time. Now I should have lifted that piece of tear and tape up first. It's going to be naughty for me now because it's already, I've got it down on the lace, and it's just a matter, might need my tweezers just to get a start on it. There we go. Just to get it off, and then I want the circle to be in the left hand side corner, and I'm just going to eyeball that straight as possible. I'm just not putting the lace down because I've got tear and tape behind there, remember, and once the tear and tape goes down you won't get it up. So I think that's pretty much, it's going to have to be alright, isn't it, because I won't be able, there's a little bit of glue that's come out of there. Handy to have those cotton buds nearby. So that's what we've got so far for our front of our card. So now what I'm going to use is one of the lovely paper lace doilies. Now I just have to make sure where I place that, and I'm bringing in my rose. So I want that to be about there, because I've got to fit my sentiment along here, because I'd like to bring in a little bit of leaves up the top there. So first, to start with, I'm going to glue down. Now you only need I'll just move that aside, I don't want to get glue on it. That's a bit too much, so I'll have to spread that with my cotton bud. But you only need a real little bit of this, just a couple of spots. But what I'll do, because this is a fairly new glue that I've just opened, but what I'll do is grab my cotton bud, and this will be handy because I just want a real little bit of tip on just on the edges, because if you have too much, it's going to ooze out everywhere when you get it on your card, which you don't want. So just spreading that about a bit. I mean, it doesn't really matter the bit that's under the rose panel, because you're not going to see that. So just a couple of spots there that could do with a bit of glue on the edge, but we might just have to pop them, make sure those ones go underneath. So Okay, so once this goes down, that's it. So I might just pop that down there. So then just turn it over if your surface is clean and just give it a little rub. That's all it needs. To adhere that paper doily. So you can see you don't need very much at all of that paper glue on that paper doily. Now I'm just going to pop dimensionals on that and have that sitting just off center. Now I've got a few dimensionals here. And with your dimensionals, don't throw away the border like all these when you've pulled all these, because these come in very handy for small areas. We do have the foam strips with Stampin' Up, but the little pieces there's no need to waste them. Now my tip on those that haven't seen how I get the backs off is just get your tweezers and just put a bit of an indent in the middle, and she says, but they usually come off a lot easier for me. So for those that don't know, I'm in Australia. I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator in Australia, and if you are after any of these products and you don't have a Stampin' Up demonstrator looking after you, I'm more than happy to have the opportunity to help you out. So just contact me through underneath, just leave a comment and I'll be in contact. If you yourself were thinking of joining Stampin' Up, just let me know and I can help you with that as well. Now we just want that to be just on that circle that we cut out, and so you can see that that's just lifted off a little bit, so it just gives a little bit of dimension to your card. Okay, now I think what we'll do now is bring in my Misty tool, and hopefully I won't mess up the whole card. My magnets on. Now I just put that right down in the corner, and I'm just going to hopefully put this on straight, because it's going to be a very snug fit down there. And I have forgotten, because I'm using photopolymer stamp, I need my foam mat underneath. Okay, so hopefully that's straight. We'll just lift that up, check it on the grid and it looks pretty straight. So we need to just push that back down so it's right in that corner, because I'm hoping that it will go onto the Blushing Bride colour. So I'm just going to use some Sweet Sugar Plum and just stamp that up. And I'm not really worried about putting a lot of ink on when I'm using my Misty, because I can always go back in with more ink. I usually, with my sentiments, when I'm using a Misty, I usually do it 2 or 3 times. Just have to make sure that's in the same position each time. So that's not too bad actually, but I'll just do it once more. It's just one of the words I would like a little bit more, but that was quite a fluke doing it first time. And just press down. So we'll just take those off there now. Pop my MISTI out of my way. And I should have stamped the leaves before I put the Blushing Bride on the Sweet Sugar Plum, but I didn't, did I? So I could just have that on like that. But I think I'll just bring in some leaves. It's not going to matter that it's going over the Sweet Sugar Plum. So I'm just going to use Pear Pizzazz. Now I'm going to use it full strength this time, and I do have it on a block this time. And if you're doing it on a block, just make sure it's well covered, because we're not using the MISTI, we're not going to get a second shot at it. So I'm just going to go down, make sure I get good pressure, like that. So it's just going to go off the page a little bit. Now I don't want to go on the lace. I may have gone on just the corner of it, but that won't matter. No, I didn't. I just missed it, so that was lucky. And I'm just going to put a piece in between there, but I might stamp off first. So it's just so it gives you the image that it's a little bit behind. So you can see how I should have really done it before I put it onto that card, but that's all right. I'm quite happy with that. I might just go in, stamp off, and just go in that little bit there. Okay. So if that really bothered you, that along there, and it does me, I would trim that off and put it on another piece of card, which I'm debating whether to. But because I don't have a piece of card ready, I won't do it, because it just makes the tutorial go too long. So we'll just pop it straight onto there. Another thing you could do, you could actually sponge the edges. We might just grab a sponge. Sorry for the hold up. So we'll just put around, this is just my blending tool, it helps me with my wrist. It's not a Stampin' Up one, but it just helps me with my wrists. And I'm just going to stamp into the Pear Pizzazz, but I'm stamping off, and I'm just going to see, and I'm only doing just where because we've gone in full strength, it's most probably This is the tool I use when I sponge because I don't have any strength in my wrists, so I can't apply too much pressure. So I'm just going over that sweet sugar plum just to make it look more antique-y really. It's just once you've glued it to your card, you can't. So it's quite rainy here today. We had a cyclone up North Queensland and we're getting a bit of the rain depression come down to us, but we do need the rain quite badly, so our poor farmers are in dire straits. So I'm not complaining for the rain because we really need it. Now I just want to go off that onto the Blushing Bride a bit and just on the end there, because I came on to the Blushing Bride with the full strength and I just wanted to blend that out a little bit. Once you start off onto your grid paper and come on, once you've hardly got any ink on, that's when you go below your leaves and you're not putting a lot of colour on. So, and another thing that we can do, we can also add some Wink of Stella to your leaves. Now I really didn't have this plan to sponge it, but and I do hold this blending tool on an angle for those that don't know, and then when you've hardly got any on, then you can sort of go full on. So you can see that I start off on my grid paper and I just come on. I'm just going to go down as far as the doily. Just a little bit down there because I've come on a bit darker down there than I really wanted to, but that's all right. I'm just going to be doing this in this top corner. Just a little bit of fluff there in the middle. Because once I add this onto the top layer of cherry cobbler, I'm not going to be able to sponge anymore. So this probably won't play. That wouldn't have been so bad if I hadn't have come on a bit too dark down one end. it does add quite a nice effect. And I am just touching the tip of the doily, only because I have to, because I just need to blend that out a little bit. Hope my head didn't get in the way then. So as I always tell people that I'm teaching craft too, there's no mistakes in crafting. It's just, you know, there's always a way out of it. I wasn't going to do any sponging today. So because I've got a little mark there, what I'm going to do is just grab a piece of ribbon. Sorry about that. And I'm going to pop that down there. So I need another piece of tear and tape. If it's gone. And most probably about there. So you can see how we can fix things up. We'll just pull that off. And you can see the big mess I've made with my sponging. Now just see. They always look both the same to me. So I'm just using, to cover up my mistake, up the top there, I'm going to put a piece of ribbon rather than keep sponging and just making it worse. I'm just going to put a piece of very vanilla, very thin ribbon down there just to fix up that. Okay, so now we're going to need to have just a piece of tear and tape just on that ribbon so that I'm not going to have trouble adhering it to the bottom layer. And just grab my multi-purpose liquid glue. I always try and do a bit in the middle first to get it going, just in case a blob comes out. Just go down the sides. So then we're going to bring this piece in and just make sure we've got it up the right way. And then we're just going to pop that on there. Now remember, we've got tear and tape under that ribbon, so I'm just holding it up a bit that side, but that's quite straight. So we'll just turn it over and give it a little bit of a rub. And we'll just get that out the way for you. And then I might just get a bit of clear Wink Stella. Just make sure it's coming out. And I'm just going to put a little bit on the leaves. So you don't have to do this, just going to highlight the leaves. I have it on the other card, put it on the rose as well, but I'm not going to do that this time. But this was mainly so you can see how we've used the rose. I mean, you could stamp and mask the rose and have it all up one side as well. There's just so many options how you can use that rose. Just a little bit of fluff in the middle. Okay, so that's our card for today. Okay, so just don't want to get any ink on it. That was our first card we did. We did the rose, and then I've come back and shown you a different way, so it's just a different layout of the card, and it would have turned out a lot differently. Would have been a bit bland up there if that would have been bare, but it's up to you how you liked your cards to be. So as I said, if I hadn't have been doing a tutorial, I would have just trimmed that off because I got a bit of ink over there that I didn't like the looks of. But then there's always a way to hide up your mistakes, isn't there? And it hasn't turned out that badly after all. So I hope I've helped you know how to stamp the rose now and use that stamp set, the Picture Perfect. It is a great stamp set, but it could retire from the 31st of May 2017. It's the 1st of June 2017 is when our big annual catalogue comes out. So a lot of stamps will get discontinued, so we never know until it happens. So, you know, if I can help anyone at all as well, just let me know. So until next time, happy crafting.